What do you think the church here in Harrow will look like in 10, 20, 30 years' time? Do you think it will have grown, stagnated, or even shrunk? Here at OneChurch Harrow, we long to see the church grow and for it to flourish. And we want to see 10% of Harrow coming to faith in Jesus Christ and following him in 10 years' time. And the way that we believe that this will happen is through resourcing the local church and multiple church planting. It is our hope that in 10 years' time we will have a thriving, vibrant church made up from all kinds of different backgrounds, meeting in a variety of different places, whether that's homes, coffee shops, parks, gardens, schools, and also led by lots of different people. Some are ordained, but many are not. You as the church will play an integral part in this vision, in what we believe God is calling us to as a church. But how are we going to get there? And that is where OneChurch Everywhere comes into play. It is going to be so key in enabling us to kind of fulfill and carry out all that we believe God is calling us to. For those of you who will have been around OneChurch Harrow for a bit, you will know that the vision of OneChurch Everywhere is that once a month we want to be gathering in mid-sized groups, otherwise known as missional communities, right across Harrow. And we see this as a catalyst in enabling us to plant churches and see 10% of Harrow come to faith. And over these next 2 months, we're going to be unpacking that vision a little bit further. We're going to be thinking about what missional communities are, why they are important, how we can make them happen, what is required of us as disciples of Jesus Christ. And today I really want us to focus on the what and the why. And part of that we're going to be thinking about the pitfalls and the solutions as well. And then in November, we're going to focus on how. And then in December, we're going to go out in mid-sized groups and do some mission together. So what is a missional community? Well, a missional community is a community where Jesus is at the centre. It is made up of about 20 to 30 people, including children, and they have a clear mission to make disciples in a specific neighbourhood, in a network of relationships, or around an interest or a hobby, for example, the environment. And there is an expectation with these groups that they will multiply from the start, that they will not stay stagnant for a long period of time. In these groups is an intentional disciple-making culture. There is a pattern of activity that balances relationship with God, one another, and the wider world. They are places where we worship together, eat together, play together, share what we love together. But why missional communities? Why are they so important in the life of the church? Well, firstly, I want to say that missional communities uncover the social space. Each one of us is made to belong with a group of people. We all crave community. Joseph Mayers, in his book Searching to Belong, says that there are 4 different spaces that humans look to create community and connection. They are the public space, the social space, the personal space, and the intimate space. Interestingly, Mayers was a Christian and he applied this teaching, or this learning, if you like, to church culture. He said that a church service would be an example of the public space. Missional communities would be an example of the social space. Small groups would be an example of the personal space. And then close friends or our spouse would be when we're operating in the transparent space. And then the divine space is our relationship with God. And Jesus operated in all of these spaces. He spent time in the public context. A major expression of this was when he was teaching the crowds. The Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5 is a good example of this. Jesus hung out with people in mid-sized groups. Jesus loved to party with tax collectors and sinners. His encounter with Zacchaeus in Luke 19 is a prime example of that. Jesus had personal relationships. He had 12 disciples whom he spent a lot of time with. And Jesus also maintained transparent relationships. You see that when he transfigured in front of his three closest disciples, Peter, James and John. He then also invited those disciples to be him in Gethsemane at his darkest hour. And Jesus also maintained a relationship with God the Father. He woke up early to pray. We see that in Mark 1:35. He only saw what he saw the Father doing, John 5:19. And here at OneChurch Harrow, we want to be cultivating disciples of Jesus Christ who are operating in all of these different types of social space. We want people to be engaging in the public space. That's why it's important that we come on a Sunday. We want Sundays to be a place where people worship, where they are taught, where they experience good hospitality, where it's a place of connection and reconnection. We also want people to be engaging in the personal space, to encounter God with a few people. That is why we are continuing to invest in our circles, because we believe that is the place where we can apply the transforming power of the gospel to our lives. Many of us will have transparent relationships and we want to continue to nurture those. And all of us need to be prioritizing our relationship with the divine, with God himself, making sure we're finding time to pray, to read his word, to be alone with him. However, the missing piece of the jigsaw is the social space. And what we want to do really over these next few months is kind of discover or rediscover what that is. And that is why we are introducing missional communities. And we would love everybody to join a mid-sized missional group. And here are a few more reasons why we think that is the case. Firstly, missional communities does what it says. It builds community. Anthropologists have noticed that across all cultures, people gain their sense of communal identity from being part of a community of between 20 and 70 people. In these groups, you can learn everybody's name. Your voice can be heard. Missional communities are an example of these types of groups. People consider it as their primary place of affinity. Ultimately, it is a place where people can find a spiritual home in a way sometimes the public context doesn't allow for. Also, missional communities need to be a place of mission. Missional communities are an easy place to do mission in a way that maybe the personal space, such as a circle, cannot do it as well. Whereas a circle group can keep you accountable in the way that you share God's love with others, a missional community is a place where you can actually do mission. You can actually share what you love, Jesus, with those whom you love. Because let's face it, that is what mission is. Missional communities are a safe place to invite our non-Christian friends into, for them to explore in a non-threatening and relaxed environment what it is to be a follower of Jesus. And finally, missional communities allow us to practice. They are a safe place for us to discover and share our gifts. For example, if someone thinks they have a musical gift or a teaching gift, rather than being thrusted up on a stage in front of loads of people on a Sunday morning, a missional community is a great place for them to experiment to see if that is the case in front of a smaller bunch of people. Missional communities foster and develop spiritual gifts in people, and they do raise up leaders in the church. So we thought about what missional communities are, and then we've gone on to think about why they are important. Let's go on to think about some pitfalls and solutions. One of the first pitfalls people will say is, life is too busy. How am I going to fit another meeting into my diary? Well, one of the reasons we are doing these on a Sunday is that we are trying to create some space for these groups to form and to thrive and to flourish. We are taking something out so that these groups can grow and develop. I would also encourage you to think about what is already in your hands. How can you live intentionally for Jesus in what you are already doing? For example, we have 21 meals a week. Why don't you start inviting some neighbours and friends around to share in some of those meals? Another pitfall, children. How do we engage them? What do we do with them on a Sunday morning? Here are maybe a few solutions. Have your children participate in the planning of these meetings. Ask them what they think. Get them to participate. Get them to help you lead the session. Maybe get them to suggest what food they would like at the group. I've often found that children are the best evangelists. They are probably the people that are going to be inviting their friends along to your missional community. A final pitfall is, I don't want to be an intrusive neighbour. I don't want to come across as pushy or stepping onto people or stepping on others. I would simply say to that is, be yourself with them. Offer hospitality to them. Share what you own with them. Have an open door policy with them. When they invite you round to stuff, say yes. So as I close, why don't I just do a quick recap? What is a missional community? Well, it's a group of 20 to 30 people meeting together for the purpose of mission. They meet outside the church building and they have a clear mission to make disciples of Jesus in an area or in a network of relationships or in an interest. And why are we doing them? Well, firstly, it uncovers the social space. It builds authentic community. It's an ideal place for us to do mission together, and it gives space for people to experiment with their gifts. And as I close, I just want to leave you with 3 questions to think and discuss. What excites you about this vision? What do you find challenging? And what do you think is required of you?